blood to those under operations and pregnant women.
This is just incredible. No money can buy good health. And the blood, particularly now, you know, in the malaria season, I mean, there's been 80+ patients every single day, and nearly all of those cases need blood transfusions. This is life-saving.
The day-long activity, which saw a huge turnout of blood donors, saw their efforts reaped 60 pints of blood for the hospital's blood bank.
Several people turn out, and I'm very much happy, and then we received several piles from them. Definitely, I'm very much glad with the turnout.
Things like this, I think, one should not just, neglect it. We should give it out, and we should come out with large number and give our blood.
Recent figures released by the hospital's administration show an 80% increase in severe hernia cases among pregnant women visiting the hospital, requiring an enormous presence of blood at the theater to deal with such cases. The move by the group of volunteers is lauded by the hospital officials, who believe the gesture will facilitate the work of surgeons at the health facility.
This is a very positive move, because you will never move in anywhere in the world where you will see a shop that sells blood. So you only get fresh blood from people to give to other patients. So if people are coming out to support it in that endeavor, I think it's very encouraging.
With increasing number of patients visiting the hospital for surgery, this brave move by these youths will help facilitate the work of the doctors. Modu Bajan, GRTS News.
That story by Modu Bajan takes us to our first break. We'll be back with news from outside the Gambia. Welcome back. Row upon row of bodies line up in a makeshift magoon in Tacloban, waiting for loved ones to come and identify them. As Nick Patton Walsh reports, the dead have been buried in mass graves.
For so many, without ceremony or even their names spoken softly. The corpses that have littered Tacloban, as so much of the city leaves, come to rest here and tell parts of the horror of how they must have died. But they leave many questions too, among the overpowering smell of looming disease.
It's a cold but necessary process, the accounting of the dead that happens here and the condition they arrive in after days in the open, and the impact of flood waters, gruesome, sometimes unrecognizable. But for the relatives who come here in search of their loved ones, it's here that they hear the toughest answers.
Some endure the search for mothers or brothers, but just find more not knowing. These had ways of identification, cards, witnesses. These didn't. Dilling Bonda came here to look for her son, Gerald. On the night of the storm, they shared cake and soda before he said the rain wasn't that bad and went out. His brother George has the more gruesome task along the rows, until it's clear they'll have no answers
here. That's all I want. Even if it's a corpse, I'd like to see my son. That's why I'm here every day, looking.
The death toll officials give may vary, but this torturous process won't. Bodies brought in and then taken away, driven to the outskirts of town where young police hesitate over their grim job. About 100 already here. The mayor said the grave is just temporary, but the holes they leave in the families, hearts and homes of Tacloban is permanent. Nick Payton Walsh, CNN, Tacloban.
It has now been a week since Typhoon Haiyan swept large parts of Philippines. CNN's Atika Schubert takes a look back at the impact and the desperation that sets in. We warn you, some of the images are disturbing.
From space. But only on the ground could Typhoon Haiyan's true horror be captured.
I've been through a lot of typhoons before. I've been through a lot of natural disasters before, and this just is incomparable. This is just off the scale.
The Philippine city of Tacloban, home to more than 200,000 people, was hardest hit by winds gusting at more than 300 kilometers an hour.
Underfoot, it is now just a deluge, and if you look behind me, I don't know if you can see it, the staircase behind me is now basically a waterfall.
As residents prayed, the storm surge engulfed buildings. A CNN crew helping in the rescue of a family stranded by the rising waters.
I can feel electricity in the water, guys. My legs are tingling.
This monster storm, it is so big, it's affecting 2/3 of the country. And President Benigno Aquino has warned his citizens that they are facing a calamity.
The devastation is, I don't have the words for it. It's really horrific.
There are fears that the death toll could soar to 10,000.
Some of our family members are dead, so it's really devastating.
I am the only survivor of the family, and I want to know them if they are still alive.
3 days on since the storm itself, there are still bodies by the side of the road.
The slow recovery effort only added to the trauma, grief turning to anger.
Get international help to come here now, not tomorrow, now. This is really, really like bad, worse than hell.
And everywhere CNN reporters went in the days after the storm, the plea was the same.
Food, tents, everything is gone. So we need help.
I hope you're watching and you see us in TV. We really need help.
Tika Schubert, CNN, London.
Indian cricket legend Sachin Tendulkar hit 74 runs in what were likely to be his last international innings. He left the field after he was caught asleep in day 2 of India's second test against the West Indies. Tendulkar is preparing to bow out after 24 years in the game and 100 centuries. CNN's Alex Thomas has more on what has been billed as the Little Masters final game.
Mention of the 100 centuries. He's fallen short of his 101st, but the next best on that list, if you add up one-day international and test match centuries, is Australia's Ricky Ponting on 69. So, I mean, that's a huge difference. Sorry, on 71. So, I mean, he's 29 centuries more than the next best. He's scored, you know, over 30,000 runs in both forms of the game. He's the most prolific batsman in cricket history. And there was real emotion in the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai, Tendulkar's home city, because people know that as far as the match is concerned, the result's not really important. But India are so far ahead of the West Indies, their opponents on first innings, that probably that was the last time we'll ever see the so-called Little Master at the crease. As you say, around 2 decades at the top of the game. Really no weaknesses anywhere in his game. And he will certainly vie with Donald Bradman as the best batsman the sport has ever seen. Lots of people coming out and telling our reporter on the ground, Malika Kapoor, about openly crying, really, and flags and just huge celebrations of his career in this, his 200th and final test match. You know, populations in the billions, and he's really had to kind of lock himself away from all that because he couldn't walk down any Indian street without getting completely mobbed. And yet, in some ways, by hiding himself away, the myth of Tendulkar, Michael, has grown even greater. So much so that we hear people on the streets talking about him as a god. And they're exaggerating it, but he is a cricket god to the people of India and to wider cricket fans as well.
Yeah, and as I say, right around the world.